Trump 2020 re-election campaign, Tim Murtaugh. Tim, thanks so much for being here. I know it was a requirement of ours that you wear a mask while you do this interview in order to protect our staff members. So we thank you for complying with that. We're also glad to hear that the president is doing well, according to his doctors, and that he's showing no signs of the disease, according again to his doctor. I want to ask you about the president and the way he is approaching this virus. He said Americans shouldn't let the virus dominate their lives. Amanda Kloots, who's a widow of a Broadway star, Nick Cordero, responded to that today. Nick Cordero died of this disease. Here's what she said.
No one's letting it. Nick didn't let it. It wasn't a choice. And it dominated his life. It dominated my life. It dominated our family's lives for 95 days. And because he didn't make it, it will ever affect my life. Even if he would have survived, it would have forever affected and changed our lives. It's beyond hurtful. And have some empathy. Why are you bragging? Have empathy to the Americans that you are our leader.
Tim, what's the campaign's response to that?
Well, Katie, first of all, thank you for your kind words for the president. And the president and the campaign and everyone here, we all grieve, of course, for the families who have lost loved ones as a result of the virus. The president's point is that he wants people to take it seriously. He wants people to take precautions, but we cannot let it run our lives for us. I think what people are, it sounds like what you're advocating is to consider another countrywide lockdown, which is just absolutely the worst thing that we could do. To lock the country down again would be to invite all sorts of medical problems not associated with the coronavirus. There would be people who would not be able to go get diagnosed if they have a serious disease. There would people be not able to get cancer treatment. And then if we don't have kids in school, that comes with its own problems for those kids. Health
Tim, no
problems,
one's advocating that, and I certainly wasn't advocating that, and
well,
that certainly wasn't what. Tim, hold on. No one advocated. Hold on, let me talk. No one advocated that. Amanda Kloots wasn't advocating that. She was asking why the president was bragging about it. If you're not going to respond to Amanda, let me ask you to respond to somebody else. The New York Times profiled a woman named Marnie Zhang, a 31-year-old school board chair from Minnesota. They say when her father had trouble breathing in early May but was afraid to go to the hospital, Ms. Zhang offered to accompany him. But then the virus leveled her. On May 7th, they went to separate hospitals, both going on ventilators in intensive care. Her father, Zhao Zong, returned home on Memorial Day. Ms. Zhang never came off the ventilator, never spoke to her family again. She died on June 7th. Tim, what's the campaign's message to that Minnesota family? Marnie Zhang died alone in the hospital. Did she let the virus dominate her?
What the president has done since the beginning of January, you remember it was the first week of January when the CDC started issuing travel warnings for China and also conducting screenings at major American airports. And that was quickly followed before the end of the month with the restriction of travel to the United States from China. A move,
with all due
I
respect,
would remind you, the president, I'm trying to make the point, Katie, that the president has taken this seriously from the very beginning.
That's not the question I've asked you, Tim. And we've heard the president, we've heard this all before.
It's a demonstration.
And we've heard the president in his own words, tell Bob Woodward.
These aren't things that you would let us talk about, but they remain true.
Tell Bob, hold on. I'm asking you to respond to this Minnesota family who lost their loved one, who died alone in the hospital. The president, and I know you're trying to spin what the president said, but I can read, Americans can read, they can all hear what he said. If he meant what you're saying he meant, he would have said it himself. I'm asking you to respond to this question. Did the virus dominate? Did she let the virus dominate her, as the president said yesterday?
There's no question that the virus has taken too many American lives. There's no question, and all of it is tragic. That is exactly why that the president has marshaled an unprecedented effort of both the government and the private sector to do things like develop and produce as many ventilators as we possibly need. We now have more than we need, and we're sharing them with other countries. Remember, at the very beginning of this, a very dire ventilator shortage was predicted, and that never materialized. The president has taken this very seriously, and his point is that we as a nation cannot lock down and simply alter our entire society.
Tim, he's comparing it again today after more than 200,000 Americans, more than 210,000 Americans. Tim, you're not answering my question. You're saying he's taking it seriously. Tim, excuse me.
Yes,
he compared it to the flu.
He is always taking it very seriously.
He compared it to the flu, Tim. He compared it to the flu. Do you believe, Tim, do you believe that this is less serious than the flu?
The point is that the flu is a very serious problem that this country faces every single year. Some years it's worse than others. We never let the flu dominate our lives and control the way we behave.
Tim, are you comparing this virus, which has killed more than 210,000 Americans,
we cannot
to
allow,
the
it is
flu?
the president's view and the view of his campaign that we cannot allow the coronavirus to run our lives for us. We have to take it head on. The president is personally taking it head on, and the reason he went home to the White House and stood as a symbol to Americans is that we are fighting the coronavirus and we are going to defeat it. That is the president's message.
Let me ask you another question. Let me ask you another question because you're refusing to answer. Let me ask you another one. Ashley DeMarinis was a 34-year-old special education teacher in St. Louis. She overcame dyslexia as a child and was inspired to help other kids with disabilities learn. She died last month. Here's what her sister told the local news. COVID's a horrible disease. People need to be careful and they need to be cautious. Wear your mask. It helps. The president walked up those stairs, Tim, yesterday. He took off his mask. He was around other people. He walked into the residence and he took off his mask. He wasn't wearing it around other people. What message is that sending?
And they were masked as well. And remember what CDC guidelines are: 15 minutes.
He was not
masked.
He is the contagious one.
All of this, Katie,
and he
is exactly
was not
why
masked,
the president is
Tim.
dead set on getting a vaccine as quickly as possible. The president has been laser focused on getting the vaccine produced as quickly as possible. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has spent every minute trying to scare people away from taking the vaccine. Why don't you rake Joe Biden over the coals, as you're attempting to do here with me today, and his running mate, and ask them, why is it that you're trying to frighten people away from a life-saving vaccine when it is ready? We know that when it is released to the public,
Tim,
it will be tested, it will be effected, and it will
be
safe.
The White House is trying to overrule the FDA to make sure the vaccine is as safe as it possibly can be. But I'll get to that in a moment. According to a recent Gallup poll, Tim, according to a recent,
they have said there is no political pressure.
The FDA, okay, let's just move on. According to a recent Gallup poll, 50% of Americans are concerned a major medical expense will bankrupt them. The president gets the best health care in the world, the best. He gets the best doctors, he gets the best treatment, and he gets it all for free. Gets it with no bills. He has care that no other American gets. He doesn't have any bills. When the president says, don't be afraid of this virus, what is he saying to Americans who might come down sick with it, go into the hospital and find themselves completely unable to pay their bills, even if they survive it?
Well, I mean, if you hear Joe Biden tell it, Obamacare fixed everything. Are you telling me that's not true?
I'm not talking about Joe Biden, Tim. I am talking about the president of the United States. You are here to represent the president, not Joe Biden. So please answer the question.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the situation. When you invite us on here, we talk about President Trump. And when you have the Biden people on here, we talk about President Trump. At a certain point, we have to be able to talk to our opponent. And there's an election about 27 days away. The fact that Obamacare was an absolute failure is the reason why Joe Biden has to have a health care plan.
The vast majority of Americans are happy with Obamacare, and it protects pre-existing conditions.
Well, if that's the case,
and this
why
White
is Joe
House is
Biden
trying to
saying that he's got
overturn
to fix it? If that's the case, then why is Joe Biden admitting that it has to be fixed? The president has a better record on health care.
But if you think it has to be fixed, where is the president's plan?
The president, listen, under President Trump, Obamacare premiums have fallen for the last 2 years, and that's the first time.
Where is the president's plan to offer something better? It's been 4 years.
Prescription drugs are cheaper, and the president has said dozens of times and signed an executive order to that effect that he will always protect patients with pre-existing conditions. Joe Biden's plan, on the other hand, is a move towards socialized medicine, and his running mate is still a co-sponsor of Bernie Sanders' health care plan that would outlaw private health insurance for 180 million Americans. Joe Biden's health care plan is an admission that Obamacare
can't afford
was
their health care bills.
Failure.
My question was to the president about the Americans who can't afford their health care bills. He might hate Obamacare. He might think it's terrible. The reality is, though, he hasn't offered up anything better. He keeps talking about a plan, saying 2 weeks over and over again. It's been 4 years.
He already has a record of doing this.
Plan.
Healthcare premiums are coming down. Healthcare premiums have already come down.
But there's no healthcare plan.
He's introduced.
Don't
He's introduced
try to sell me a bridge. He doesn't have a health